Hi everybody and welcome back to the TrekCulture podcast. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Sean Ferrick.
I'm Paul Sutherland.
And this week we are absolutely delighted to be having, I've phrased that terribly, but I'm going to press on with this sentence anyway. Delighted to welcome our special guest this week. You may know him as TriAngulum Audio Studios. We know him as TriAngulum Audio No, he's our buddy, David. David, how are you getting on? Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Oh, it is so good to have you, especially to talk about this little episode that happened the other day. But before we go into that, tell us a teeny little bit about yourself, David. Our ravenous viewers, they want to know.
Well, I am a fellow Trek YouTuber. I've been doing it for 2 years. And I've just loved Star Trek since I was about 8 years old. So, I wanted to contribute to the Trek community, which has given me so much. And so I started the channel.
Great. So we're going to be discussing primarily that Hope Is You Part 2, but we're also going to kind of wrap in a little bit of our overall feelings and thoughts on Season 3. David, what did you think about the season finale?
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I thought it had a few problems with it, but I thought it was good.
And overall, I mean, did you think that it was like a fitting conclusion to the season and what they'd set up?
I thought so, yes, once I realized the entire season really wasn't about the burn. It was more about the family aspect of the show, getting to know the characters and creating that bond that we've seen in other Star Trek series with the audience. So once I realized that, it was all good from there.
Yeah, I thought that the season was less about family, though that's definitely a big part of it, and more about, like this theme of hope, which, is fairly explicit in the season premiere, and I think the season finale, if we're gonna get like touchy-feely about it, was about like sharing hope, sharing hope with Su'Kal and the Federation, and and even among the crew.
Yes, and I think the finale, especially those last scenes, really captured the hope that everybody has been, hungering for in all of the past seasons. I mean, not that the seasons didn't have hope, but this was a strong message saying, we're changing our direction for sure going forward.
Yeah.
I definitely got that too. I think that it's not so much... Okay, this is the most explicit I'll ever say. I think it has been distancing itself from season 1 a lot. I think we've spoken about this on the podcast before, so I won't go too much into it, but I think there was a direction that season 1 went in that season 2 and season 3 very much seems to have veered away from. Hope is probably the best word to put on that, because that idea of, I suppose, quote-unquote, what Star Trek is, and a lot of people potentially thought that early Discovery, I say potentially lightly there, didn't fit into that, what Star Trek is. Whereas I think the season finale, particularly of season 3, has got much closer to, I suppose, would Berman era Trek be fair to say? Obviously that but I suppose I want to... because I don't want to separate Roddenberry era Trek and modern Trek, because that really puts a schism down the middle of it, doesn't it?
It also kind of like really it limits how much Roddenberry Star Trek there really is, because there really isn't that much. The Berman era is like the largest chunk of the franchise, although we must be getting close to surpassing that now with over 10 years of the Kelvin timeline, and now all of the content that CBS has put out there. I'm sure that you and I will get an opportunity, Sean, to rewatch, like re-binge season 3, and I am positive, just like the prior seasons, will have like different feelings about it. It may hold up better, as a complete story that you watch, from beginning to end in rapid succession. But I've been trying to gather my own thoughts about season 3, and I can say, despite all of my criticisms, at least the tone is like much brighter, and it's a much more enjoyable watch than even season 2, which I continue to believe was the strongest year of Discovery, despite, I'm in the minority on that one, I think.
What do you think, Dave? So where do you think season 3 kind of stacks up for Discovery so far?
Well, I have a problem with Gene Roddenberry's version of Star Trek because, if you watch the original series and then you go to Star Trek the Motion Picture, and then from there to seasons, 1 and 2 of TNG, it definitely has a very different feel than what he originally started out as. Throughout his career, he started to believe the propaganda that he was feeding the audience. He started to believe it himself, and it caused a disconnect between Star Trek and its audience. And, that disconnect, if you look at season 1, I mean, what's the worst season of Star Trek? Season 1 of TNG, really. I mean, it was kind of, like all season 1s were rough for most series, but, TNG was in your face, where humans are superior, talking down, very condescending, and no one liked it. When I go back, there are very few episodes that I will actually watch. So the difference for me when it comes to Discovery is that it took the ideals that Roddenberry had that were good and tried to incorporate them. Now, it didn't always succeed, but now by season 3, they've gotten into this thing where they're taking the best of Berman and the best of Gene, and they're combining it and trying to create something completely different and new. So I think it's really, I think it's found its wings, and it's taking off now. And I think season 4 will be even better.
Well, I mean, I hope you're right.
True. That's an excellent point. I mean, with all deference to the importance of the original series, and again to TNG season 1, I do agree with you that it is exactly what you said. It is very in your face. The characters are, in some instances, less likable than they were when they started to relax into the role a little bit. And I think season kind of 3, 4 of Next Gen, I think we generally agree this is where, let's say Berman era Star Trek kind of takes off. Even, and then we go into DS9, go into Voyager and Enterprise, of course. And I think that, I see what you mean. Season 3 of Discovery, I don't know if it does it entirely successfully, but it goes back a little bit to the exploration of earlier Star Trek, which is very Roddenberry and very Berman. Obviously, Voyager, like it or love it, the entire theme was and getting home. Yeah. That was a part of it. And now there's a thought that's just popped into my head. Season 3 of Discovery is fish out of water. It's lost in a different place, which at least spiritually is something akin to Star Trek Voyager.
That's right.
Is there anything, I think, that maybe...
But also it's Enterprise in a way, because it's rebuilding the Federation,
They sort of...
And then it's serialized like Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And then it does have those exploration aspects and the can humanity overcome itself type of scenarios that we see in TNG.
In fairness, hard to argue that. Paul,
I think what sets Discovery apart from those shows, though, is the characters are so ill-defined that you don't really have a strong anchor to tell the kinds of stories that they want to tell. It's difficult to tell a story about exploration or about being lost or, rebuilding the Federation. If you don't really know who's doing that, it always falls back on who is this story about, in the smaller scale. And unfortunately, as much as I love Micheal Burnham and I love Tilly and I love Saru, I still don't know that much about these guys. So I feel like there's like nothing to hold on to with this show. The Federation is just kind of like this like sketched out entity, you know, so it's not really like, it's not fully fleshed out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that anchor point in the season isn't really there, and while the show did take a lot of steps towards allowing us to actually get to know the Discovery crew, I personally don't feel like I really have a good handle on who they are. So nothing felt very weighty to me this season, and that's a shame.
Okay.
See, I thought they did a good job of starting to create those anchors. I mean, obviously, with 13 episodes as opposed to 26, you know, there's a lot less room for character growth, especially when you have these stories that you have to work out, you know? But I thought Detmer, Culber, you know, Tilly, they all got their moments to shine this season, whereas in a lot of the you know, the two other seasons of Discovery, it didn't feel like they were shining so much. It didn't feel like we were getting to know them more as they were just there to enhance the plot.
I think that's a fair description. I think that's fair. I think of the secondary characters, Culber probably is the character that benefited the most this season.
Yes.
I mean, you're exactly right. 13 episodes. It's hard for any show. And this there is quite a large cast in this show. Really, we're used to it because we're used to having the entire bridge crew. We're used to having, you know, DS9 had about 49 regulars at one point. The guest starring section of What You Leave Behind goes on for half the episode, and we're, you know, so when you have Detmer and you got Bryce and Reese and Tilly and Arium and Nilsson. Oh, blink and you miss her. There's Lieutenant Ida instead, and Linus, and they're all obviously, you know, from a character standpoint, competing for airtime, and it is hard. So, Paul, I absolutely see where you're coming from. It's very hard to really get a grasp on these characters when a lot of their stories are kind of statements.
Yeah, you know, I keep hearing, oh, there's only 13 episodes, so there's not enough time to flesh out the characters. I keep hearing it's meant to be watched as a 13-hour movie. You know, it's meant to be watched as a 13-hour movie, but we're still releasing it on a weekly basis, so please try to enjoy it despite that format. That totally rings hollow to me. They're not writing these things like in a vacuum. You know, they know the format. They know how the season is going to lay out, at least, you know, episodically. So I just don't understand the like desire, the like necessity to obsess over things like mysteries like the burn, you know, over character.
I'm gonna jump in with a hot take on season 3. I feel that we know how I feel about the burn. That's on record. And, you know, a lot of the set pieces of the season have been quite good, but they have been set pieces. The through story that I think has been going from episode 1 of Discovery to, well, it's now set in stone, season 3, episode 13, has been Burnham's ambling, meandering, side to side, literally forward in time journey to the captain's chair. And in Star Trek, we only have one other character, really, arguably two. I'll mention the other one now in a moment, but one other character who really kind of compares in that it's taken several seasons and, you know, has done, and that is Benjamin Sisko. Sisko started Star Trek Deep Space Nine as, I think technically a lieutenant commander, as the first officer of the Saratoga for all of 20 seconds, and then obviously commander of Deep Space Nine. Now, we had 60 odd episodes for him to become captain, whereas we had for Burnham, I think we have, 42, I think. And how do you guys feel? I realize I've just thrown this at you, but how do you guys feel that potentially their journeys stack up or compare against each other, in that these are the two long-term journeys to captaincy we've seen in Star Trek so far?
David.
All right.
Yeah, go first.
Thank you. Well, I think they're quite a different journey, even though the end point is the same, simply because, they both face this tragic dilemma in their life. Burnham loses Georgiou after committing mutiny. Sisko loses his life in the Battle of Wolf 359. Sisko makes the conscious decision to put his career on hold, and kind of go create the Defiant class and that sort of thing, live on Earth. He doesn't want to really be part of Starfleet anymore. Whereas Burnham is arrested. So she's forced into that thing, even though she wants to be a part of Starfleet and she wants to make a difference. And I always had this feeling that, the course for Burnham was to the captain's chair from the beginning, and that she would definitely have to redeem herself. And then by the end of the series, she would become the captain, the hero captain that we've seen in so many other series. My problem is that it just doesn't feel like the journey was enough yet. It kind of feels like, just like Tilly becoming first officer, it was kind of just thrown in there. Oh, look at you got it done, even though we disagreed. Now you're captain, congratulations. It didn't feel right when she continually, from episode to episode, her entire personality would change. One day she would be following regs, the next day she'd be disobeying and going behind people's backs. That's not the way to really become a captain. I mean, if you look at Kirk, he knew when to follow the rules and when not to. But Burnham does not have that skill set yet. So to put her in the captain's chair and to put Saru off on another planet for a little while, it's kind of a bizarre choice that I'm not sure that it's going to pay off yet. We'll have to wait and see for season 4, obviously, but it just feels like the journey wasn't enough for her yet. Maybe one more season,
I think the series should end, or should have ended, with Michael taking the captain's chair, not this sort of like mid-series development. Michelle Paradise gave an interview in which she said that season 3 was in part about getting Michael into the chair, and I just don't see how that really computes. She was all over the place this season, and I think that her being all over the place is fine. It was a bit of a frustrating viewing experience, but that's like, people have interesting journeys in their lives, so that is fairly realistic, if not totally satisfying. But like Vance telling her, you screwed up several times along the way, but look how great everything turned out. So here's here's Discovery. It almost felt like he was like swept up in the emotion and like the joy of defeating the Emerald Chain and getting Discovery back, versus like actually having like a really rational reason to promote her. I think I would have much rather have seen him say, you screwed up a lot along the way and sometimes it worked out for the best, so let's like do more of that, and maybe someday, Michael Burnham, you will be ready, but not yet. And I also just don't think that I need this show to be about Michael in the captain's chair. However, I do think that the image of a black woman in that chair, in that center seat, is a really positive one. So I mean, I'm always like so split on this show, but
I think.
But see, the thing is, sorry.
No, please, David, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, the thing is, and what really bothered me was that they had the opportunity to make her temporary captain while Saru was away, or while they decide, are we going to put someone from this century in the captain's seat? You'll just command doing these cargo runs, and yet they made it such a purpose to say, oh no, we're not going to have you as temporary. We need you a decision now. You have to be the captain. Like, it was such a bizarre way to do it.
It's almost like they're
the journey just didn't feel
saving
satisfying.
Potential conflict with Saru for next season, where Saru comes back and they're going to jockey for the chair again. Sorry, I apologize for cutting you off.
That's okay. I mean, but we've already been there, so it's kind of, if they're going to do this, If they're going to bring Saru back as a captain of another ship, as an admiral, whatever they're going to do, it seems a little contrived and forced. The journey wasn't satisfying yet. Give us a full season where Michael becomes the real first officer, where she follows the rules, she shows us what she can do, like Riker did in season 3, and then give us the captain's chair. Give her the captain's chair if you have to. I just think it was a weird decision to make at this point.
Yeah, I think
that's
I think if Michael had said to Vance, "Thanks, but no thanks," that would have been like a really strong.
Yeah, but then Tilly would have been captain.
I actually, Joe. Funny enough, I thought for a little bit of the season, I thought that's where we were headed. Not necessarily that. Well, certainly up until the last episode, Vance was not offering her a captaincy, but I did feel that she was going to reach crossroads where she would have to veer away. Now, I did think that was going to come sooner, particularly in the episode where she went off actually with Georgiou. And this is so this is where my mind went to in linking Burnham and Sisko like this together. With that journey, we had a very earned and belated, of course you are captain. There was an interview very funny interview where Avery Brooks was talking about, Sisko's journey, and he's so blunt, that man. He goes, I don't know why he wasn't captain in the start. I don't know. Eventually they made him captain. It's like, Avery, I like your honesty. Whereas Burnham, I think, yes, Paul, to kind of say what you said, to accept the captaincy, it feels strange. Now, you're both absolutely right. The image of a black woman sitting on the bridge as captain, that is there forever. That can never be taken away, and I don't want that to be taken away. I don't know if Burnham as a character has got there yet. I don't know if what we've seen is enough. Now, we don't know, obviously, what we're going to get in season 4. It could be, like you said, David, it could be, Saru, arrives back in Discovery, steps off the shuttle. Oh, that was a lovely holiday. Why are you in my chair? Or it could be he could be reassigned, which is what I think will happen. I think he will be reassigned, either to work in headquarters or be given one of the fancy new ships, Enterprise, and which would be quite pleasant. Or we now have the entire world of Kaminar to explore. Actually, I'm talking myself. I feel like now is probably a good time to head toward the news, because we'll talk about season 4 in that. But before we head there, is there anything else, guys, that on season 3, let's go really quickly, favorite episode, favorite guest star? David, go first for us.
Terra Firma and Vance is definitely, he's the best for me.
Yeah, solid. Audit Fair knocked it out of the park. Paul, what do you think? Same question?
I guess I'm going to say People of Earth was my favorite episode of the season, even though that was, that was really early. And I guess Tig Notaro continues to be my favorite guest star on Discovery, and I want her to be around more, but actually that's going to take us to the news. So, Sean, why don't you tell us what your favorite part was, and then we'll get there.
Cool. Okay, yeah, so really quickly, my favorite episode is actually the pilot. I really liked that Hope Is You Part 1. I really, really liked Michael's episode with my favorite guest star of the season, who was David Ajala as Book. I loved him. I thought he was brilliant. I just want to give a really, really, really quick special I love you to Kenneth Mitchell. Please come back for season 4.
Oh yeah, okay. and Grudge, if you want to come on the show, we can,
You can have my seat. Grudge, you can have my seat. I'm saying that right now. No problem. But yes, right now, let us go to the news that we have, in fact, and we'll do a little bit of speculating so we can watch Paul's eye twitch.
For over 2 centuries, you're listening to the Federation News Network.
what do we know so far? We know season 4 is filming because Doug Jones, who is just a wonderful human being, seems to be replying to every single person who's worried that he has left the show to let them know that he's filming season 4.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, like, I think it's actually great that we have no idea, what his role is going to be next season, because, presumably it will be, like, a genuine surprise.
Yep.
Yeah,
and we have a year to debate it, right?
Oh, God, I hope it's not a year, but it did.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so the reality of the world aside for a second, I think we know they're filming now. And so 13 weeks ago this season aired, so I presume it'll be winter anyway before anything drops. And I'd say, I don't know, actually, I can't remember, has Star Trek Picard season 2 started filming yet?
February.
No, it's supposed to start in February.
Okay, grand. So I reckon we're looking at Discovery season 4 probably before Star Trek Picard season 2, which is, I want more Picard. Anyway, did you guys catch... So, this is both in the news and also about Season 3 as a whole. The uniforms, right? So, the new uniforms that came at the end of Season 3, there was something revealed over the weekend, which I thought was quite fun, is that Tilly went through a costume change she never knew about. She was standing on the set wearing the grey, some people have said it's a motion picture style uniform, with the red command division stripe down the side, but in the episode that was released, it's very much blue.
Yeah, having rewatched that episode this morning, of course I rewatched this episode this morning, but you can really tell that they altered that stripe in post-production.
I think was the reason given that they didn't want to tie her in to being first officer, I think, going into the next season.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody actually commented on it, but that does seem to be the case.
That's what I would guess.
I mean, there was also something kind of interesting about that. That actually might have been the scene that Kurtzman was talking about when he said that they were having to do some digital trickery rather than getting additional photography in, because Tig Notaro is clearly not on set when they filmed that. I think they might have even just used CGI to put the new uniform on her and spliced in some older footage, because you can see in one wide shot and also the promo photos that that's not her on the bridge, that's a stand-in.
What do you think of the pips? So we're so used to having admirals have pips on their collar, on like either side of the collar, officers have it on one side. What do you think of the pips on the shoulders?
Well, that's only for the captain's uniform, right? Everybody else has just got it here, I think. Right?
I think so too, yeah.
Come on, you should be the expert. You're wearing a Starfleet uniform.
Different era, okay?
that is give the man a break. His uniform is from almost 1,000 years before this.
Yeah, geez, man.
Sake, live in the past, Paul. Come on, live in the past.
I actually really like the new uniforms, but I think I even said in a Cargo Bay 101 that I didn't like the old disco uniforms with all the metallic elements. So
That's you heard it here first. Obviously they were listening to Cargo Bay 101, and all of the collars are gone, Paul.
Yep. Yeah. Oh. Now, if only they'd take all my other advice.
We want a show left by the end of it. Is there anything, David, that you're hoping for in season 4 that you feel is... This is potentially a hard question. That you feel where season 3 has left us, what do you think might be a realistic hope for season 4?
No pressure.
No pressure, basically, Alex Kurtzman and Micheal Burnham, they want a break and they need someone to write season 4 for them. So if you wouldn't mind just right now,
I'll get
could you
right
break
on
the story
it.
for
Hold
season
on
4?
Just 1 second, yeah. So, first, sources that I have tell me that Discovery for season 4 will be heading to a more episodic nature. Now, not as fully as Strange New Worlds will be, but it's going to be more self-contained stories. I have a feeling that we'll get a bit of a time jump, in season 4, maybe a year later, maybe half a year later, where the Federation is starting to pick up its pieces and start mending itself. And so Discovery's job when we left season 3 was basically a glorified cargo vessel, because it can get to all of these places really fast with the dilithium, get things started. I think eventually it's going to be Discovery being the diplomat, going to these worlds that we've seen before, with some new ones thrown in, that we've never heard of in the Federation before. But going to all of these places where Star Trek has already been and reintegrating or attempting to reintegrate, Federation society, back together. We still have Navarre that needs to come back to the Federation. We don't know if Earth is going to come back, and if it does, what is its status within this new Federation? I mean, it left. The Federation started with Earth, and it left. So what, where's Federation headquarters actually going to be in the end? What about the Tellarites, the Andorians and the Orions, the Klingon Empire? How did they deal with all of this? A race of conquerors not being able to go out and conquer anymore. There are so many questions. What happened to Bajor, for example? That's another big question. The Dominion, the Borg, the Kazon, which they've thrown out all these Easter eggs for the Kazon throughout the season. What are the implications? And Discovery can get to all of these places within seconds.
Yep.
So I really hope that it's a rebuilding thing with self-contained episodes that tell us the story of each of these different races and exploring, have a few anomalies or something thrown in there somewhere along the line that they're exploring. Show us the Federation getting back to normal.
David, it sounds like you're describing what we thought season 3 would be.
I knew it couldn't be that.
I think in hindsight I would have, I am so here to watch that show. Now that I've seen season 3, I think we're in a better place to start that show. I think I'm not entirely satisfied in how the Federation was sort of depicted overall in season 3. I feel we could have had either a little bit more, or it seemed a bit of everything was done on the fly, which is both, yes, okay, you have no dilithium, that must be quite difficult for you, and also, oh, come on, you've been doing this for a while now, you must have some backup plans. So anyway, but I think, going into season 4, as you say, the idea of getting stranded in the Delta Quadrant is no longer a thing. Assumingly, the Bajoran wormhole is still there, if necessary. At this stage, 1,000 years later, I would assume DS9 is dust in the wind. But whatever is there. Yeah, that's true. I think DS900 might look pretty nice. What are the Cardassians up to? We see Cardassians in Federation uniforms, or Starfleet uniforms, sorry, I should say. So have they joined the Federation?
Yeah.
Right. What were the races that stayed too? I want to know. Who was it? The Cardassians, the Bajorans? Who stayed? I mean, there were so many questions, and I agree with you that the way that the Federation depicted was kind of half-assed.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's okay. I just wanted to say that, and there was some questions about what this Federation's moral center really was. I mean, they threw out a bunch of those little things where people who had this very negative view, and sure, you can say propaganda for some of that, but I don't know. I get this feeling that the Federation still isn't the shining beacon that we all hoped it would be.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that, Paul.
No, I was just going to say that I think one of the most interesting lines of the finale, and if not the season, was Osira, may she rest in peace. I'm so sad she's gone.
Maybe
she
not.
Said, the Federation is a shell of its former self, just going through the motions. And boy, would I have loved to have actually seen that. That could have really been an interesting, element of the season if the show had really stayed put and let us get a good grasp on what the Federation was. we kept speculating. I mean, we just kept speculating, period, because the show wasn't giving us enough information. It wasn't telling us this is the way things are here on out. Like, you know, because we've shown you this. They give us like peeks and glimpses of the Federation, but we never really got a good handle on it. So we were like never really trusting that what we were seeing was actually reality, that there wasn't another shoe that was going to drop. So season 4,
exactly.
Yeah, for me, stay in one place a little while. Give us 2 or 3 episodes in one place. You know, show our crew go back to their respective homes, and you know, give us a good, you know, firm grasp of what the Star Trek universe is like in the 32nd century, and like let us have like a baseline and you know, like a clear understanding of the setting that they are trying to, you know, portray here, so that we can go forward and, you know, like get cool, fun, exciting, action-y stories out of it. But they haven't done a good enough job world building, in my opinion, which is why I liked People of Earth, because that to me felt like one of the better world building episodes, and it felt like, you know, like this was like the new rough 32nd century that we were going to see in season 3 before we shifted into status quo Federation. Only we're told that it's hobbled by lack of dilithium.
I think the one thing that I'm kind of telling myself I need to accept is that I don't think the pace of Discovery is ever going to slow. I think they have, the producers and the showrunners, they have a very definite idea that this is action Trek. This is, you know, sexy Trek. This is, you know, God, I can't believe I just said that. But anyway, you know, this is, the arrow has been fired, and that it is challenging to get the world building that, you're right, we sorely need in that style. It's not that it can't be done, it absolutely can be done, but it is a challenge to get the depth that we need, you know, and not even in the context of Star Trek, but just in the context of enjoying a show. You know, what do we know about Trill? Don't like Outsiders very much. Oh wait, now they do. You know, there's more to it than that, but it was very, very quick. People of Earth, I agree, you get the best idea, potentially, maybe Navarre as well, you get the best idea of where the planet is at breakneck speed. So I think what I'm going to tell myself as we go into season 4 is it's going to be like drinking a quadruple espresso in every episode. I just hope that there is enough while your heartbeat is kicking out of your chest, that there's enough foundations laid, there's enough depth of character, even if it takes, give Owosakon an episode to herself, give, you know, Detmer then obviously an episode, give Bryce something to do, you know, something like that. Maybe give them an episode. If it's not all standalone, then maybe, you know, I'm actually thinking of Doctor Who season 9. You had two-parter, and it suited the structure. So I think Paul, this is the best I've done on. I've not speculated. I have just put across my hopes. Is that okay? Have I trod the line?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, look, so this is a news section, and we're kind of straying from that. There is a little bit of news. Michelle Paradise did come out and say that the events of Calypso, the short trek that everybody's been harping on all year, everybody expected to tie to season 3 in a way that was more concrete than what we got. She's continuing to say that they love that short and that it will eventually tie into the show. I'm a little dubious here. I almost wish, I almost wish that they would say it's an alternate reality and moving on, you know, because the very shallow way they incorporated Zora into the season, man, how exciting was it when she showed up in those 3 robots, and then the following episode proceeded to just get her ass handed to her by the by the Emerald Chain, and only proved useful despite having, what was it, like 100,000 years of knowledge. She, her biggest contribution is shielding Owoshakan from an explosion.
Well, there you go. 100,000 years of civilizations in history. They do tell you that the best thing you can do is save Owosakon. And I'm okay with that as a message.
Hey, maybe Owoshikun is some kind of like secret savior of the galaxy, and there's like
Maybe
some.
she's Zora. Maybe we've got it all wrong. Maybe she's Zora, and for some reason she has to borrow the sphere's voice. That might be speculation. What actually? Do you know what? Before I forget, now that it seems to be that we're staying this way, I'm sold on Discovery A. I wasn't for a lot of the season because I didn't know if we were going to stick with it. Maybe we're, even as I think I mentioned this last week, even as recently as the trailer for this episode, there was a shot of, now as it turns out, stock footage, which is grand, of Discovery. I really, really, really like Discovery A, and I feel like I can now breathe and say I think it's staying. What do you think?
I didn't know that there was really any question about that. The only I just thought that they would like bend themselves into a pretzel to make it align with Calypso this season, but they didn't do that, and I don't really have any real expectation that they will at this point.
Yeah.
What do you think, David? So, I suppose pick your favorite child, original Discovery or Discovery A.
I actually like both equally, so.
A true
It
parent.
didn't really matter to me. I'm a Starship nut. What can I say? So,
that's okay. I think you're in pretty good company here.
Yeah, maybe I kind of like I have an interesting. I can tolerate a good spaceship here or there. I really like Discovery. I really like the refit. It kind of smoothed out those like rougher edges, and kind of has like an Enterprise D quality, which is like my favorite, Starfleet vessel. So I really think it's a good design, and I can't wait for all the concept artwork and technical blueprints and schematics, everything that they should definitely give us over the summer to look at between seasons, right? Come on, CBS.
Can I just say something that actually bothers me about Discovery in regards to starships?
Of course.
We never get really great beauty shots. Ever. Of anything other than the Discovery itself. And the Enterprise last season, we got a bunch of that. But all of these new ships in this 32nd century that I'm hungering for, we get a registry number and a Bussard collector. What's with that? Or we get ships that, like the Navarre ships, which are so far distant, I have to bring out my telescope to even see what kind of shape they are. I mean, it's kind of bizarre since Star Trek is just as much about the starships. All the starships are a main character in Star Trek, always. And yet we're hungering for these shots, and all we get is concept art on CBS social media accounts, and I'm really bothered by that.
I mean, this is not news, obviously. They did this from not about the segment itself, but like broadly, this is not new. Like they've been doing this since the beginning of the series. It was really difficult to see the ships in the first season the way they oversaturated the space shots, and there was constantly like a nebula or a planet or something to like really obscure getting a good look at the ships. I agree with you. I would love to get like a handle on what Voyager J looks like. I think that was actually a huge missed opportunity in That Hope Is You Part 2, was that we didn't get a clear look at Voyager, nor did she really do anything that interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Part of the fleet, yeah. I think you're right.
Do you think COVID could have been the problem, though? Do you think that the graphic artists, since they had to work from home and stuff like that, that could have affected the shots? Do you think that could be it?
No, I think that the visual style of the show is a lot of lens flare, a lot of just like very dynamic shots that don't give you like a really good chance to just like get a clear idea of what you're looking at.
So I think to kind of, I suppose to put a pin, say, in the news section, because I'm very much on the same page as the pair of you. I am that person. I think I've said this before. Like, give me a glass of wine and that dry dock sequence from the motion picture, and that's it. That's my evening sorted. I'm fine. You can just leave me alone. You don't need to babysit me. So going into season 4, my pure wish is, opening shot, opening scene, a bit like the reveal of the Enterprise A. You know, we have to get through 32nd Century Space Dock to say, oh, look, there's the Voyager, there's the Nog, there is the Yelchin that was mentioned. Oh, no, that was during the burn, so probably not going to be there. But something like that. And I know everyone's been calling out for where's the Enterprise. I'm sure there'll be one. I don't think Star Trek's gone 10 episodes without a mention of it. And I'm clearly that is an exaggeration. But I think that's it for the news.
Wait. I have some news. I keep forgetting. No, I think this came up last week. Tig Notaro gave an interview in which she said that we won't see her very much next year. That she's not going to be traveling to Toronto to be in season 4.
Paul, that's bad news.
I'm sorry. I know.
Wah.
I was winding up with my mention of her earlier, so I just wanted to circle back here and say that unfortunately we're not going to get a lot of Tig in season 4.
Okay, David, I know it's your choice, but can I put Paul in Cargo Bay 101 just for that?
Please do. Permission granted.
Excellent. Cool. Well, grab onto something. Right, on that, let's take a trip to Cargo Bay 101. Do you know the rules of Cargo Bay 101?
Well, please refresh me.
Grant.
Paul, would you like to take David through the rules of Cargo Bay 101?
Oh, sure. Okay. So we're going to take anything, well, you take anything you want from the Star Trek universe, past, present, obviously not future because it hasn't happened yet, unfortunately. And you can put it in Cargo Bay 101, and we will debate whether or not it should stay in the Star Trek universe or get jettisoned into space. That was my very boring description.
That was great. No, it was great.
It was excellent. It was quite textbook, and I applaud you, sir. Right. So, David, we're going to make thing go boom now. All right, cool. So, what do you have for us this week?
Well, the thing that I want flushed right out the airlock ASAP is Discovery's turbolift system.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
I'm sorry to say.
There's going to be
I'm sorry to say,
this one.
Canon has shown us what a turbolift tube looks like. And although I can believe that there would be a central hub that could be a little bit bigger, I do not believe that it was the massive expanse or, like the season 2 roller coaster version that we saw. I'm sorry, but the whole thing, it's really bizarre. It doesn't fit. The ship is certainly not big enough when you look at the cargo bay versus the rest of the ship. It just doesn't work. It doesn't fit. And I want it in there stat.
Okay.
All right. So, Paul, what are you thinking?
Okay, so I've actually given this a lot of thought because despite my snark earlier, I'm obviously I'm really invested in the starships and starship design. I write the 10 secrets of X starship you need to know, which, by the way, you should go check out the NX-01 video. I interviewed Doug Drexler, and it's mildly entertaining.
No, it's really good. I checked it out. It's a really good video. I highly recommend it.
Thank you. So I'm also a big Kelvin timeline fan. I'm a big supporter of that vision of the universe, and I think that's sort of the genesis of the very hollow starships. The thing about that is, in Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond, you get views of the inside of the Enterprise's secondary hull, and you can see the exterior shape of the hull from the inside. You can see how it all lays out, despite it being very open. And I don't think that, unfortunately, that kind of thought went into the internal layout of Discovery for this episode, which is a bit of a bummer. And I was trying to think about what is it like to be inside a really large open space, like a warehouse or a soundstage. And they're relatively small compared to the secondary hull of Discovery, and they do feel really large and open. But there's just no way to make that believable, unfortunately. It just doesn't work, and I wish that it made sense. it doesn't matter, you know. And I saw a lot of people online like complaining about it, and it's just such a silly thing. It doesn't matter, but I just want a little bit more thought put into, you know, the world building, and that includes the ships themselves. So
yes.
I'm with you. Let's take the insane turbo lift, you know, action sequence, and like, I mean, it's just like shrink it down a little bit. It doesn't need to be quite so impressive, you know. That's like flexing your budget in a way that just didn't need to happen.
Okay, so the very nature of Cargo Bay 101 means it's gone, it's done, it's gone forever, and that's fine. But losing the wild, wacky turbo lift chase means we lose a wonderful Die Hard moment. Now, the second last episode of the season was Die Hard on Discovery, but this season, and Chris was the one to spot this, you literally have the Gruber fall as Zara falls out of the turbo lift. I'm not sure if I'm ready to lose that, but I'm on the same page as you. It's fun, but you have gone into the grid from Tron, and you know, if they said you have now entered the holodeck, I'm cool with that. But yeah, there is a slight kind of, now I know it's big, but is it that big? Question.
Yeah.
I mean, were they just like going back and forth? Because like, you know, like it has been pointed out that there are a couple of shots of the schematic of Discovery inside the episode, and you can see that there is open space. But like, were they just like flying back and forth in that open space? Like, how was that journey so long?
Maybe that's the tank where like the dolphins should live on Discovery, and they just hadn't filled it.
You know? I have to ask Adam Cleary about that one.
Yeah, there's another dolphin series coming. Guys, I am with you on this one. I think, you know, that those little silly things called the laws of physics do kind of come into play here, and I'm going to ask you both right now, grab onto your consoles, because I'm about to depressurize Cargo Bay 1701. It's got an upgrade, and away it goes. So, guys, before we finish up now for the evening, we have just finished 23 straight weeks of Star Trek. We have just finished Season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. Where are you now in terms of how do you feel about Star Trek Discovery? How do you feel about Season 3 in general? And just to kind of a general, how do you feel about 2020's contribution to Star Trek?
I'll let David start since he's the guest.
Oh, well, thank you. I thought, you know, it was a good, refreshing change, and, you know, I was impressed by, you know, 2020 Lower Decks. I mean, come on, I loved that. You know, I was impressed by that. I'm looking forward to season 2 of that, which will probably be in August of this year, sorry. And then, you know, all of these new series that will follow after season 4 of Discovery, you know, Strange New Worlds. I mean, we're at the cusp of such an exciting time for Star Trek, where year-round we'll be discussing this. We'll be having new ships, new feelings, new storylines. So I'm really looking forward to it. But I thought that season 3 was a good, solid entry into another new version of Trek.
Yeah, you know, I've been a little bit negative on the show the last couple of podcasts, and, you know...
Get out of here.
I think that Season 3 was a big swing, and I can commend them for taking, like, such a big risk. It was really exciting to get introduced to, like, a whole new version of the Star Trek universe, but unfortunately for me, it's a big swing and a miss. However, 2020 Star Trek, you know, like... I mean, if there was ever a year that we could use this much Star Trek, it was 2020. Star Trek Picard, I thought, was excellent. And I think in comparison to Discovery Season 3, I think it even looks a little bit better, in my opinion. Lower Decks was exactly what we needed this summer in that very dark time. And I'm excited for the UK to finally get a chance to legally watch Lower Decks, which we will be discussing next week. So yeah, unfortunately, season 3 of Discovery for me was a bit of a disappointment, but I love Star Trek Discovery. It's like way more heart than brain, and that's okay sometimes.
I hated it. It was just awful start to finish. No, I mean, obviously, as you know, look, I really enjoyed season 3. I agree wholeheartedly in what you're saying about Lower Decks, and I cannot wait for season 2 of Lower Decks. Just absolutely the palate cleanser I think we need, and also the lift that we need as well. Picard I'm really excited for. I think 2020 has just been, we've all been spoiled for choice. Discovery, I think season 3 is not going to win any new fans, but I think it might have helped solidify existing fans to no, I'm here for the long haul. Now, I probably would have been anyway, obviously, but I like it now. I like the expansion. I like where it's going. As we know, it's not perfect. Very few shows are, but yeah, I'm in a pretty positive place with where Trek is now at the moment. I think hopefully the only direction to go with Discovery is up, and I do mean that as a compliment. I don't mean that as it's been bad before. So that's where I'm at. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'm excited for more.
Yeah. So goodbye, Star Trek Discovery season 3. For those who have been commenting, asking us if we were going to cover anything other than Star Trek Discovery, guess what? We're going to start covering things other than Star Trek Discovery.
Nobody ever told me. I bought the T-shirt, Paul.
Yeah, take that.
Yeah, right. I'll see if I can dig out another costume somewhere. But for this evening, David, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you very much for giving us your time. If people want to reach out, which they absolutely should, how and where can people find you online?
They can't. No, just kidding. They can search TriAngulum Audio Studios in either Twitter or YouTube, and I'll be there. I'm always there. Got nothing else to do. But thank you so much for having me on, though. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Yeah, this was fun, and thank you so much for your very insightful, just your thoughts on Star Trek as a whole. It's been a year. It's been a year.
Indeed, it has.
Where could people find us if people want to find us?
Well, you can find us, if you haven't already found us, at TrekCulture on Twitter and YouTube. Also, we do write articles for whatculture.com. I mean, we never direct anybody to the actual website, but yeah, and you can find me personally at Paul Sutherland on Twitter, and I might respond to your comments or tweets, maybe.
It's true. You will get the driest and snarkiest response, and you will love it.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
Whereas I myself am like a puppy on speed. You can catch me at Sean Ferrick on Twitter as well. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to this on audio only, thank you so much for your ears. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for your eyes and ears. Guys, have a lovely week. Live long and prosper. We will be back next week. And yeah, let's rock this 2021.
R.I.P. Osira.